that, let's jump right into more so the preview. OU Baylor this Saturday, 2:30 on what's that? ESPN Plus.
ESPN
We got
Plus.
we got relegated to ESPN Plus, guys. Woo woo! We've done everything wrong to get ourselves put on ESPN Plus. I'm kidding, but no. With the new contract that the Big 12 had signed a couple years back, it added ESPN Plus to it, and now we will be there. And it actually said 2:00, so I'm actually off by 30 minutes. So let me edit that right now. So we'll start off with you, PG. How you feeling about this game coming up?
Yeah, I'm excited. OU gets a chance to get back at Baylor, who they lost to last year. It was their first loss of the season.
Yeah.
The thing is, last year you lost to a really physical Baylor team, and they're really physical again this year. You're running up against a Baylor team that is actually starting to catch its stride. So that's a little concerning. However, right now they have the number one run defense in the Big 12, and you saw what we did to the number one run defense last week in the Big 12. So I have no doubt in my mind that Eric Gray will just have a day with the Baylor defense. But yeah, I mean, I don't think OU is going to struggle too much in this. I don't think we're going to see the same thing that we saw from Marvin Mims last week. I believe Marvin Mims will catch his stride and get back into it. Eric Gray will potentially hit 1,000 yards after this game. He's at 796 right now. So
yeah,
I think he'll potentially get to that 1,000-yard mark, and he'll probably get 2 more touchdowns to make it 8 touchdowns on the season. I think OU's favored by 3.5 in this game.
I'm going to talk about the Vegas stuff in a minute. I'll talk about the spread and over-unders, but yeah, you are right. They're 3.5 right now.
Yeah, I really like OU in this game by 10.
Oh, wow. You're jumping out there. Kchris, what you feeling about this game coming up?
Give me 1 second. Just sending this out real quick to my aunt. Let him see everybody on here. First and
good
foremost,
promo.
Thanks for the invite to the show. Look, a couple things come to mind with this matchup right here. Okay, I think what BV said at his press conference, there was something that really rang true and that really just hit home with me. This is going to have to be the most physical game that OU plays this year by far, right? Because Dave Aranda on the other side of the ball, he's going to call a great game defensively, and then offensively, they're not going to do anything spectacular. They're going to try to beat you in the trenches and try to really be the more physical team on offense as well, and just just overpower you. To be honest with you, they don't really have, in my opinion, a wide receiver that stretches the field like they've had in the past. They just get it done. They just nickel and dime it down the field, take the occasional shot when it's there, and they just play good, consistent football. Like I've always said about Baylor, they're either consistently bad or they're consistently good. It's no in between. Let's just be real.
No, and you're right. You're right there.
I think one of the things that pops out to me in this game to take a look at is PG and I talked about this last week about the previous matchup against Iowa State, right? Levy's creativity was off the roof in that game. But what you're wanting to see now is, does the creativity match the production that you'll see on the field? Hopefully Marvin Mims is not going to have an off day like he did last week. Hopefully we see some of these exotic sets and different things that Levy was wanting to do to keep Baylor on their toes and keep them guessing. Because when they're not able to just know exactly what you're doing or see something that looks familiar, look, the West Virginia game kind of told me a lot about this team as well. And to your point, PG, they're catching their stride. I feel the same way about us as well. I finally feel a decent or good about this defense. Not great, but I feel somewhat good about this defense that we have. But like I said, for me on the offense is, can the creativity match the production? Are you going to be too creative, or are you going to go out there and just, take what they give you, which in a lot of ways, they don't play a 3-3-5, but Baylor is has one of those defensive philosophies. Basically, hey, if you take what we give you, you'll do well. If not, if you try to get greedy, that's where we'll hurt you. And if you come out there and you're playing soft and you're not blocking like you're supposed to, we will take advantage of that. We'll exploit that. On the defensive side of the ball, I think what it really boils down to for this defense is what type of shaping do you get that day? Is he going to be the shaping that they were all, geeked up about during the offseason, or is he going to be the one that we've seen thus far this season? I don't think that he really doesn't have a high or a low ceiling, in my opinion. I just think that he's just kind of middle of the line. To be honest with you, I think that him and Hunter Decker are kind of one and the same. He's just a tad bit better. As far as being more accurate with his passes, right? So I don't think that they really do anything offensively that hurts you. They just scheme really well as far as their blocking with the run game. If you can shut down their run game and make this a passing expo, I think you'll be perfectly fine. But with that being said, I'll piggyback what PG said, and I'll say at least 10 plus. I feel really good. We're at home. We're feeling good about ourselves. It's time to kind of go out there and use this game as a statement game to let everybody know that, hey, we're here. We're going to be fine. And we're steadily changing that narrative.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And with everybody tuning in, go ahead and jump in the comments. We're going to get score predictions later on, but we'll take yours now. We'll add our exact scores later, but let us know. Jump in the comments. Hit the like button while you're here. Go ahead and subscribe. Also, if you're new to the channel, let us know what you think about this Baylor game. What scores do you have? Right now, PG and Kchris both have put a 10-pointer on them. So pretty excited about that. I can agree with that. I think the big thing, and we'll talk about X factors next in just a moment, but I want to start off with this, with my thoughts going into this game. Both teams are walking in at 5-3. So as Hank asked this question, dang, we got relegated to ESPN Plus. Yes, we did. We're both 5-3 this year. So unfortunately, at 5-3, with Baylor being 3-2 in conference and us being 2-3 in conference, it kind of does not look like it's going to be the juggernaut of a game that it was supposed to be when the preview came out at the beginning of the season. We're both trying to figure things out and make it happen. And so for me, I'm thinking that on the offensive side, yes, we've got to get our run game established. Baylor has the best run defense in the conference right now. They're actually better than Iowa State now. Surprise! It's because we ate up Iowa State. And so because of that, Baylor leapfrogged them for number one. And so in order to do something in this game, just like you all said, physicality will be critical. We're going to have to punch them in their throat and run it down their throat right afterwards and get all those yards and let Eric Gray hopefully push for that 1,000 yards. I kind of hope he gets 200 yards this game, because that would be dope for him to go ahead and get that 1,000 yards because of this one. But I don't see it coming, but I do see him having at least 100 yards this game because Eric Gray has been super efficient for this team this year. And then on the defensive side, we got to stop their running. And he's my X factor, and I'm going to go ahead and start that off for us now because I think that that's probably one of the best places to go to. The defensive X factors for OU, to me, it's definitely going to be those linebackers. Since we're still playing in that 3-3-5 defense, Richard Reese is no longer a secret. Dude's a monster. The running back for Baylor, he's a freshman, so we're going to be dealing with him for at least 2 more years. So we've got to be prepared to stop him. They have one of the best running game teams in the Big 12, and so we got to focus on him because just as Kchris, you mentioned, Blake Shapen is not someone that I'm afraid of. I was wondering how he got the job over Bohagan, but I guess something looked good in spring ball. I don't know, because he does not look like he's that much of a threat.
I'll say this right here. I'll just jump in and I'll let you continue. I think Eichert and Lehman pointed out something, man. Grimes is a pretty damn good offensive coordinator. He's not flashy, not going to call anything super exotic. But if you look at some of the run schemes and some of the different things that he does during the game, the adjustments that he makes, he's a hell of an offensive coordinator, at least against us from what I saw, especially last year. Because as the game went along, he just schemed different things. And he saw different things, even from the sideline, not even up in the box. He just saw different things. He was like, oh, we could just run it. We could just flip this play and run it to the right. Oh, we can flip this play and run it to the left. Oh, we can circle this and come right back to this. It's going to work. It's going to be there. So, I mean, he's on the fly with the adjustments. So I could definitely see that. So, yeah, with Grimes, I think the success that they've had you thought that it would all be about shaping and that he would elevate this team, but it's really just been about the scheming and the simplicity of the calls that Grimes has been able to make as an offensive coordinator, in my opinion. He's a former offensive lineman, sort of like Levy. So he sees the game from a different perspective, and he's able to actually bring those blocking schemes out there to give them time to do what they want to do.
Okay, I'm with that. And on that note, the linebackers to me are probably the most critical ones. As long as they're playing good ball, I think we'll be solid in this game. PG, what do you think is the X factor on the defensive side coming into this game against Baylor?
Yeah, you said it. The linebackers need to play well. You want to see Agwebu, Stutzman, and Deshaun White just tackle really well this game. I mean, those are going to be the three main guys you see out there. I think probably, though, on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to have to get a couple turnovers. So OU has 9 interceptions this season and 2 fumble recoveries. You're going to have to make Baylor make mistakes. Only 11 turnovers this season. That is not, I don't feel like, winning on the defensive side of the ball. By this point in the season, I'd like to see OU with 15 or 16 turnovers. Right?
Yeah,
I feel like that's where they should be at. They're not there yet. We understand it's going to improve and get better, but this is the game where your defense has to make those plays and has to make the offense make those kind of mistakes, because Baylor's not going to really beat themselves too much. And so you're going to have to go out there and make that happen. You did it against Iowa State. You can definitely do it here. We saw C.J. Colton a couple weeks ago get a great pick. You saw Danny Stutzman get one last week. We need to see those same kind of things happen this week.
Yeah, I need more Colton. I need more interceptions out of him. I mean, he got 2 before these 3 came up. He was the person that had the 2 before over 2 games. And so I kind of want to see a lot more CJ. Hopefully we do get to see him a lot. We did see a lot of Billy Bowman in that last game against Iowa State, which was really good. And it helps. And so as Hank mentioned here, all we heard about all week long was how good Iowa State's defense was. And then our defense stepped up and outplayed them. So I'm hoping that this week, all we're going to hear is how good Baylor's defense is and how disciplined they are. And hopefully we walk out there and we rock their mouth. So
yeah, but I don't think you'll see a lot of that 3-3-5 that we've been running. Because if you noticed last week, they put out a 4-man front quite a bit. And I think they're probably going to do the same thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but it appears Brent Venables might be calling a little bit more plays on the defensive side of the ball. He was a little bit more animated last week than what I've seen him this season. So I feel like he's out there calling the plays a little more.
Go ahead, Chris.
I kind of feel like that could be the situation. I think that he has more of an imprint than we thought. I mean, than we thought that he had. Everybody was thinking it was Roof or whatever the case may be, but I think he's being more vocal about it. I think he's starting to be more assertive with it. I think he's finally starting to get. He's not finally starting, but I think he's getting more of a rhythm with this head coaching switch and with how he's supposed to prepare the players, how he wants to go about it to get them in. Everything is going to click. It's just going to take some time. But what I would say as far as the X factor on defense, okay, talking to my uncle this morning, he brought up a really, really damn good point. What would mask a lot of the problems that we have on the back end, even with trying to bring Agwebu and I mean, Agwebu's played a lot of snaps, Stutzman's played a lot of snaps, but at the same time, this is the first year that they haven't really split or anything like that. They're actually taking the bulk of those reps, right? What masks that, and even the secondary, like woes, right? It's the defensive line. You got to get a pass rush. We're going to say this every single game from now on out until we see it consistently, at least for 3+ games. You got to have a consistent pass rush. And our pass rush this year has been almost non-existent. Look, we just got our first sack in 6 games. And it was from Jordan Kelly. And I'm not saying Jordan Kelly's a bad player, but I'm saying this. The play wasn't even called for him. He was a decoy. It was supposed to be for Ethan Downs, but he got loose, right, against Iowa State. So with that being said, I see the effort. I see the guys getting loose. They're just not able to finish. They're not able to finish. They're getting pushed up the field, just like we've heard countless people talk. We can go and listen to Layman and everybody else tell us talk about it as well. They're getting pushed up the field and they're not being able to get home and make that and get the sack. and that's kind of killing us on some situations. Go back to the Hunter Decker. We probably should have had him a couple of times. And at the end of the day, Aguabu probably should have got him if he wouldn't have overran the gap, right? But yeah, coming into this game, I think it's the defensive line. Can we get a pass rush on the edge and the interior somewhere? Can Jalen Redmond or Grimes, can they kind of come alive in this game and actually be a factor? And then also, if their running game is pretty darn good, which it seems like everybody is saying that that's their calling card for this team right here, you're looking at not only the defensive line, but you're also looking at the safeties as well. How are they going to be in run support? So if we get the Key Lawrence that we've seen these past 2 weeks where he's breaking boys off with some, you know what I'm saying, when they try to come up to the middle or whatever, or trying to find that hole when he's coming up.
Key's been stepping up over the last few games, man.
Yeah,
he like I had mentioned a while back, it looked like he was in the doghouse because if you watch the all 22, if you really pay attention to where he was positioned in a lot of games, he was looking like he was off. Like those 3 games we lost, he looked like he was off. He wasn't spots, missing the gaps and everything. Yeah. And then it's like it clicked, and now he's back to being the Key Lawrence that we thought. And then we had that Gentry showing at the beginning of the game against Iowa State, and that to me was big. And he looked like he knew what he was doing. So from just jumping to some of these offensive side, to be for me, back to that offensive line, we need to maintain that consistency that we've seen at the first 3 games of the season, and then the last 2, we need them to block. We need this run game to continue to be as dominant as it's been. We're a top 3 team in the conference with Baylor right behind us. We need to be able to continue to put back to guards. And then when Dylan Gabriel a couple seconds to really think about and get to about 3 seconds in the play, he's finding receivers open because the design looking like that Farouk catch where he was wide open. Those play designs are starting to come in. It makes me think about the Josh Heupel stuff that he's doing at Tennessee right now. The players understand the plays so well to the point of, Jalen Hyatt's going to get the ball, and what does he do? Still end up butt naked open in the back of the field and behind the safeties. And it's just because of the confusion that comes from understanding how these plays are ran. Levy's offense, the players are starting to get it. They're starting to get open like crazy. I think that this line, if they can give Gabriel about 3.5 to 4 seconds on a consistent basis, he'll pick apart Baylor's defense. What do you think is the X factor, Chris?
I think it's kind of 3-part. First off, I'll go with RB2. We kind of have an expectation for what we should be able to get from Gray, but RB2, when you come out there on the field, are you able to move the ball not in the same way that Eric Gray's been moving the ball, but are you able to pick up tough yards? Are you able to make it where it's 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5 consistently as well? Get what I'm saying? Is there a drop off whenever you come on the field? Secondly, I would say, hey, wide receivers. Wide receivers got to step up in this game because here's the thing. This should not be a game where Baylor is just basically loading the box. They should respect your pass game as well. David Renda talked about it at his press conference, how Dylan Gabriel is the type of quarterback who can make a pass from one hash to the other if you let him, And we've seen Dylan Gabriel be able to connect on a lot of different passes like that, simply because that's kind of how that's Levy's scheme, right? And then lastly, I would say, to be honest with you, my biggest X factor in this game, I said it before and I'll say it again, is the play calling. Levy doesn't have to be money on every call, but this is a team right here, and this is a game that you can't go in there and necessarily let's be finesse, right? I'm not saying that you got to line up in a wishbone and go right at them, but I do feel like a lot of the exotic stuff is not going to phase them. A lot of the trick stuff, I think that you're just going to have to, you're at some point you're going to have to just play straight up, and you're going to have to say we're better than you, and we're going to be more physical than you, and we're going to go at you, right? So if you see the hockey switch that they did on the offensive line during the Iowa State game, that's setting up for this week as well. Is Baylor going to be prepared for that, where then they can start running tempo, because you've already went over these 4 or 5 plays that you're going to run on this script, and you're saying, hey, look, this is all that you got to do. Don't worry about the calls or whatever. Just go and hit somebody, right? And so, that's something to also think about as well. But yeah, I would say RB2, wide receiver core, but most importantly is the play calling.
I'm here for it. PG, what you think is going to be an X factor on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest X factor is going to be the same X factor that we're going to have for the rest of the season, and it's offensive line keeping Dylan Gabriel healthy. Do not let Dylan Gabriel go out of this game, right? And that's going to be the same mantra for the rest of the season. But no, if we're looking at something specific, it's going to be trying to get Marvin Mims engaged early again on some of those deep passes. You've seen Jeff Lebby do that for the past couple of games, trying to get him engaged early. He needs to continue to do that. Marvin Mims and Dylan Gabriel will connect on those. You just have to keep doing it. The big thing is during Brent Venables' press conference, you heard him talk about how sometimes Jeff Lebby needs to go back and call a play that has already worked, right? Sometimes offensive coordinators have a tendency to want to call everything in their playbook, but they need to go back to the thing that originally worked, right? So I want to see Jeff Lebby do that. If there's something working, keep calling it until the defense figures it out and stops it, because there's no reason why you shouldn't be running it if the defense can't stop it. So I liked Chris's point on RB2, especially if Javonte Barnes is not able to play in this game. I'm curious what we'll see out of Marcus Major, who is the third leading rusher, or if we'll see a little bit of Gavin Sawchuk, who we've heard so much about, but he's only had 2 rushing attempts the whole year. So really,
he's
offensive
played?
line.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, he's played twice. He has a total of 5 yards. So it's going to be offensive line, protect Dylan Gabriel, which, by the way, Dylan Gabriel, he's averaged 2020, 19 and 2020. He had 22 sacks both those seasons. Before last year when he got hurt, he only had 6. So this year he's only been sacked 11 times. So the offensive line's done a pretty good job so far.
And to be honest, when you say that about the sacks, I think honestly some of those sacks have been on Gabriel. That's been his fault, kind of holding the ball a little bit longer than he should, or not scrambling when he knows that he can outrun those players. Because dude is athletic as hell. He just doesn't use it much. He focuses too hard on trying to pass it when he should just go. He started running more. I think the funny thing is, as I say this, he started running the ball more after the concussion, which has made it even more terrifying for all of us. We're like, brother
got to learn how to slide. Brother got to learn how to slide.
He does not have a baseball slide.
I don't know if you saw
baseball.
that game. I don't know if you saw it play last week where he slid and the 2 Iowa State players pretty much collided with each other because he had it just timed right. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to see that. I want to see Dylan Gabriel, slide earlier. And
one thing I'll jump in here and say is this right here is that look. Do I respect Dave Aranda? Hell yes, I do. Dave Aranda is a great defensive mind. I mean, obviously, we know the LSU game. We can go and talk about that. And we could talk about what he did last year as well with Baylor. I mean, that defense was pretty much a bully. Hell, the last 2 years we played Baylor, that defense has been bullies, BV talked about that as well at his press conference about how we fared against them, at least on the scoreboard, the past 2 years. But with that being said, this Baylor defense has struggled an awful lot as well. I don't know what we're going to go up there and do next week in Morgantown, but I don't expect to give up 40 points to them, right? and yeah, I mean both, and even Dave Aranda said, he was like, "Look, I think this is a defense that's finally starting to find somewhat of an identity." And they're finally starting to hit their stride. And so you could say the same about us too. So,
that's true.
I mean, this defense isn't a world beater. I'm not saying that this is Georgia of last year's defense, but at the same time, we know that he's going to scheme extremely well. And when you watch their defense play, especially against us, for some odd reason, it's going to look like they know our plays.
Listen. Baylor didn't have a lot of turnover from last year on their defense. So we know what their defense is capable of. And that's the thing that scares me, is because I watched that game last year and I watched an explosive Oklahoma offense with Caleb Williams completely get shut down. And I'm afraid to see something similar. The difference is it's not Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch calling the plays. So maybe there's something to that. Dave Aranda maybe doesn't have Lincoln or Brent Venables' number. I don't know.
Well, I mean, here's the biggest difference, okay? The biggest difference comes between not the talent. So please don't get that misconstrued. Not the talent level between Caleb and DG. Look, I love me some DG, but hey,
Caleb's Caleb. You
Caleb is
can't.
Caleb.
Yeah, you can't deny that.
But when you talk about right here, as far, I mean, and he could see the field now. You're seeing the progression that he's making, even as a true sophomore in Caleb Williams.
Yep.
But when Dylan Gabriel has time, and when Dylan Gabriel is filling out that pocket, you see the pass that he threw to the touchdown pass that he threw to Jalil Farouk in the Iowa State game.
Yep.
If that's the Dylan Gabriel that we see going forward, it's going to be scary for a lot of defenses, not only to finish out this year, but going into next year as well. Because if we
agree.
That Dylan Gabriel, it's gonna be lights out.
Yeah,
I 100% agree with you there.
I'll say this.
Go ahead, PG.
If Lincoln Riley was in this game, if Lincoln Riley was coaching this game for Oklahoma, I would pick OU by 40 in this game, especially after what happened last year. Or I'd say Lincoln Riley would take a timeout with 1 second left in the game just to kick the field goal like he did last year.
Being petty.
Yeah.
Being petty. To be honest, the only reason why I would agree with you there is just because you wouldn't have as much player turnover. So that's kind of the difference between this regime and the old regime. And that's why I don't compare the two as much. And I say this a lot. It's really because of major turnover of players. And people kind of bashed me a little bit when I agreed with Stuart Mandel over at The Athletic when he talked about how Oklahoma was going to finish. I agreed with him for the most part because he outlined it. You're losing a lot of players, and it kept losing players from the last regime. People graduate, going pro, etc. And it's a lot of stuff to replace. And then you bring in a new scheme, a new setup. It makes sense for us to be doubted 100%. And we 2-3 losses. But with that being said, like you said, Chris, this team is humming. EG looks like he's focused. We talked about this the last live stream last week when I mentioned about the future and talked about Tennessee. This really feels like what they were doing. Dylan Gabriel is starting to get the offense. He's getting it down. And the receivers are understanding where they need to be to get open. And they're just following suit. Everything is doing it the way you want them to. All they got to do is add their defensive players to make the defense a little better. Not a lot better, just a little bit better. Then the offense needs to be explosive and blow up. Honestly, I'm thinking DG's probably going to be back next year because he'll know the offense inside. Might be a good thing. And hopefully we end up number one like Tennessee is. And speaking of which, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all jumping on the live stream. Jump in the comments. Let us know about what you think about this game. Tell us, do you think that Oklahoma's going to win by more than 10? They're going to win by less than 10. Give us your predictions and score predictions. We're going to go around the horn here for the exact same thing. Then we're going to jump into the next topic. So, PG, give me your score prediction.
I think it's 31 to... You know what? I'm going to go 31-14.
It's not too shabby.
And you know what? If Venables has any sense of non-cowardliness in his bones, I want him to kick a field goal with 1 second left.
Don't do it. Just don't be petty. No reason to. No reason to be petty. Chris, what you got?
I'll say 34. I'll say 34-21.
Ooh, 34-21. Okay. Interesting. I see Hank's got here 40-24, the good guys. I love the way that you place the good guys. And so, before I give mine, we'll go to the numbers that our friends at Vegas have. The spread is right now at 3.5. Oklahoma is the favorite at the crib. Over under is set at 61. So they do expect this game to be a shootout because it's gone up to 2 points since the actual opening. All the money is on Baylor, and the line has not moved. 85% of the money's on Baylor. 73% of the tickets are on Baylor. Most of the picks from the experts say go Oklahoma. Of course, I'm going to Oklahoma. I think they win this bad boy by about 20 points. So I'm right there at about the 42 to 22 or 21 point range. I'm thinking it's going to be a high-scoring game on the good guy side because I don't think that Shapen's going to do any better than Decker did against us last week. Now, he's a little mobile, but I think the linebackers would be better prepared this week. All right, you guys, you drop your comments. Let me know your scores as well. We will leverage them a little later. And